Alright, so a little follow-up on survival communications. I want to talk about accessories to the Baofeng and the Baofeng system of running your radio comms, okay? And when we talk about a systems approach, we're not just talking about having one radio. When people talk about a systems approach on a rifle, whether they like the AK or the AR or maybe some of the HEK stuff, a lot of times it's mix and match components to be able to enhance your capabilities and have a complete toolbox. One of the things that guys who actually go to work, guys who actually build stuff, people who actually do some of this prepper and comm stuff, it's more important to have a complete toolbox and go to work than it is to have the very best wrench and not have any screwdrivers, okay? You got to have a complete toolbox. And one of the cool things about your little base $35, $50, sometimes they go on sale for even less than that, Baofeng radio is, it comes with everything you really are going to need. On the other hand, as soon as you want to complete your toolbox and have more capabilities, yeah, you're going to expand from there, you're going to spend more money. Probably the first thing that's going to happen is a second radio. These are what's called low duty cycle radios. They're not made to be running all day every day. Okay, you're going to have component failure on this stuff, and then you're going to have equipment loss issues. Okay, it's going to happen. Something falls out of a pocket or a pouch, and that's where, you know, professionals like this I got from a source that was supplying security contractors and what they called military consultants at the time. That's what they used to call that shit in the Balkans, was military consultants. We're getting these radios. Now this ran on a NiCad battery. The NiCad battery eventually went bad. There was an update available with a lithium-ion battery. Now the guts on this thing are actually the same as the Baofeng, but it's not going to work in a charger, okay? That part isn't compatible. The cool thing is that we have a little charger plug outlet on here, and it's a 7.4 volt battery, which means that this little cord thing that came with it has a tip that is actually compatible with some of the other stuff out there. The thing is, you got to screw around and test everything and make certain that you're going to be okay, because every once in a while these jerks will reverse the polarity in these plugs. Generally speaking, the internal part is going to be positive, the external negative. But they screw around, they reverse polarity, they do things to make it where maybe your antennas aren't going to be compatible. This ICOM radio, from what I'm told, uses a antenna that, well, I'm not going to screw that off. It's kind of on there with a little torque limiter anyway. With these Baofengs, you can do a little changes. This is what they call the 2015 model, right? The UV5R5, a little bit of improvement stuff. The important thing for me was, and they've gone through, they got the UV5R Plus and some other stuff, you're not always talking compatibility. That's why I kind of prefer the standard model. So when you got your base unit, you realize this thing doesn't have a lot going on, okay? It probably has less intelligence and capability happening inside this radio than a low to middling level cell phone. I'll be honest with you. There's a whole mystique with ham radios and licensing and all that shit. There's a whole mystique goes with the knowledge you got to have to use it. You know, chances are that you may even be viewing this video on an encrypted burst transmission multi-band device, okay? The device you're viewing this radio on is probably far more advanced than the radio itself, okay? Your smartphone, your computer, something like that, it's seeing all this stuff over Wi-Fi, it's jumping bandwidth, it's doing encryption, burst transmission, all that fun stuff. These are relatively simple. The thing is, these don't require that major network to have most of their functions. That said, you know, it's a simple, inexpensive device right here. When you buy one of these, you're also getting the battery charger, your little earpiece stuff, So realize that if one of these breaks or goes bad, you're going to have spares, okay? One of the spares you're going to end up with is a battery. Well, 1800 milliamp battery. If you talk a lot, you're going to run these things down. For the same reason you don't go into combat with no spare magazines, you probably don't want to go into too many comm situations without a spare battery, except you should be able to function for most of your thing without having to swap batteries, okay? And the thing is, this isn't real big, okay? That's not real large capacity. You get a 4500 milliamp battery, and what I suggest is you go ahead and get one of these things. This becomes your main battery. These things will become your backup. The other thing that's going to happen with these is they can snap into your charger independently, and you can have spare backups for these things, okay? The other thing I noticed about the extended battery is it does have its own charging port, and from the looks of that charging port, it may not be waterproof. And so if you wanted to make this a little more waterproof, you might figure out a little rubber plug or something for that. If you permanently waterproof it by filling it with silicone, you can still use your 3 contact points out here. But again, the stuff isn't heavily recognized. It's something where you pretty much have to protect the radio. $10 for this extended battery, 4,500 milliamps. I'd say it's a no-brainer. And it's definitely battery capacity inside of there. Another option is your AA adapter. These things are about $6. Again, not much more money. And by the time you fill one of these with AA's, it's the same price as a rechargeable a lot of times. But you may be able to get AA's in a shit hit the fan situation or pull them out of storage, and you're in business, right? So it's not a bad thing to have some of these around, but I think that's a lower priority than having the lithium battery stuff. And again, might as well have a spare radio. You're not going to carry it on you, but you'll have it around like in your vehicle kit. Upgrade antennas, I don't know. I got this Nagoya B-Tech for Baofeng upgrades. Okay, so there's a secondary market now for upgrade parts for these radios. This one's supposed to give you a little better performance. The thing is, it has some instructions. If you screw it on, there's a little gap here. And then they give you a little rubber O-ring for this. The rubber O-rings on the inside, it's better to show you on a fresh antenna. It's on the inside of that, it's not on the outside. The outside is basically just a cosmetic rubberized sleeve. But you might want to get into some plumbing supply type stuff and play around with it and do another little rubber gasket for that sleeve. Tactical headsets. Let's talk about tactical headsets for a little bit. This is a Z Tactical Bowman headset with a little SAS style push-to-talk button. Straight up piece of shit. I finally got it to work. The speakers on these are not very loud. I'm hard of hearing. I got to have this stuff turned up all the way. The factory ones that come free with a radio are not half bad, and they're kind of ambidextrous. You can flip that around and stick that on your other ear. If you're a left-handed user and you're trying to use this like and get a cheek weld on your rifle, even if you're playing airsoft, this thing says you're not going to get you're not going to be able to do that. Now, in a highly dynamic airsoft environment, a lot of time paintball airsoft, you're dealing with a lot of stuff at short range, very fast tempo. It's a faster tempo of operation than a lot of times you're going to see with live ammo, real deal shit. But it is still going to beat up gear. You still need performance. There's a lot happening with airsoft that is actually more intense than real combat. And if the gear doesn't hold up, it doesn't hold up. And this stuff, it's almost costume grade when you're talking about Z Tactical. I'm really not happy with this Bowman headset. It's a piece of shit. I wished I never bought it, but then I'll be glad I bought it to warn some people about these things. That said, there's a bunch of other people who use them and are happy with them. And there's a company out of Finland that Survival Tech Nord used to work with that used to take the guts out of these things, put better speakers and microphones in them, then fill them up with silicone. It's a bit of work, so they charged extra. The plastic housings would all stay the same, but they basically rebuilt these things with better guts. That said, your housing, your plastic housing, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, where these people went cheap is on the speaker magnets and microphone components. They just you know, they want to fill up shelves, fill up boxes of product, and get it sold. And beyond that, I don't think they care a whole lot. These things, because I think they basically are crossover from the cell phone industry, a little more tried and true. It's got a little push-to-talk button. They come free with the radios, and they work better. Other stuff that's kind of important to have is car charger. Again, I do a lot of stuff off-grid, so I'm going to get car charger stuff for these. What I'm noticing, though, is that this is apparently a 12-volt output, so it has this style of barrel plug on it. Your 12-volt to 8.3 or 8.4 conversion happens inside this charger base, which means that when you're charging these batteries, you got to have that charger base around. It isn't the setup for plugging directly into the radio. On the UV5R, you can. On the UV5R, basically, it takes one of these little mini plugs, but they have kind of a reverse polarity going on, some other issues. So on these, the chargers, and I don't keep a charger with every radio. I keep a charger in every place. So we're going to have a charger when you buy multiple radios. You know, what stores with the radios is one charger, and then I want a charger in each vehicle, a charger at each retreat location. We want chargers in multiple places, but we want multiple radios on us. But there's no reason to carry all your chargers around. And for me, the 12-volt stuff for the off-grid, it's a little more important. Now, as far as long-term storage, EMP, these are not going to be EMP resistant. If you're in a repeat hit EMP type of situation, you know, one of the ways you can store these things is the EMP that you probably own or have access to, which is a microwave oven. If you're in a resistance against the New World Order situation, you store these in a microwave oven, and you need to have communication security. Bad guys are going to kick down the door, and you're going to go out in a blaze of glory. What do? You got all your radios already in a microwave. You just turn it on. It's going to wipe all the memory and all that shit right now. So that's, you know, that's your EMP and comm security little tip with these things. Keep them in a microwave if you're really concerned about that. Now, personally, I'm not. That's not really the main thing. I got one EMP resistant bug out vehicle. If that kind of thing hits, I'll pick up the pieces. I'm going to go through all my shit, figure out what still works. I'll take the bug out vehicle. If it's not that type of a situation, I'm going to gamble on some of this stuff still working.